We're going to be
Sure.
talking about something that Vitalik Buterin said recently in a Reddit forum, something that caused a lot of stir amongst the crypto community. He says that the mandatory acceptance of Bitcoin in El Salvador is counter to crypto's ideals of freedom. This is something we've actually talked about a lot on the show. There seem to be these two camps of people. One is just blindly cheering anything that happens in El Salvador because they really like Bitcoin, and the other side saying, actually, we don't like coercion and force, and it's counter to the ethos of cryptocurrency. And, Bitcoin aside, the mandatory acceptance of it is not okay. So let's read what Vitalik actually said. He said it in this Reddit forum. He says, "Nothing unpopular about this opinion. Making it mandatory for businesses to accept a specific cryptocurrency is contrary to the ideals of freedom that are supposed to be so important to the crypto space. Additionally, this tactic of pushing BTC to millions of people in El Salvador at the same time with almost no attempt at prior education is reckless and risks a large number of innocent people getting hacked or scammed. Shame on everyone." Okay, fine. I'll call out the main people responsible. Shame on Bitcoin maximalists who are uncritically praising him. So some pretty strong words there. I'm going to throw it straight to the group for your take on all of this. I definitely have some thoughts, but Jen, I'll throw it to you to start off with. What's your take?
Yeah, I totally agree with Vitalik when it comes to education. That's something we've spoken about a lot on the show. You know, a lot of the people in El Salvador, this is the very first time that they've been exposed to Bitcoin. And so to launch this project and say, actually, you have to use this if you're a merchant, big or small, and if you don't, you'll be faced with repercussions from the law is absolutely ridiculous. The article, though, points to some confusion. So we're talking about Article 7, which says all merchants need to accept Bitcoin no matter what. But then the president tweeted, I think last month, saying Article 7 is actually, don't pay attention to it anymore. If you don't want to accept Bitcoin, it's no big deal. So in the article, there's actually a quote from a Salvadorian merchant saying, well, the law is one thing and Twitter is another. That's not a direct quote, but that's also something we've spoken about on the show. And so I can only imagine how merchants in El Salvador feel. If it's written in law, I would probably abide by that rather than what the president's saying on Twitter. So this just brought up a whole bunch of confusion for me. I would really love to see Article 7 be abolished or at least changed. But Naomi, I see you nodding away there. I can either toss it back to you or David, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. So I guess I kind of have a middle ground position here. And I think that one of the things that maybe gets excluded from these conversations is that the definition of legal tender is that everybody accepts it. So if you're talking about the legal, no, I mean, this is what happens when you have a dollar and everybody has to take a dollar. So I do wonder if there's a gap there. But Naomi, you seem to be disagreeing. Are you?
Yeah. And I think that's a big confusion in the crypto space. So in the United States, for example, there is no law saying that at your business, you can't put up a sign that says Bitcoin only. In El Salvador, prior to this law, it was perfectly legal for you to put up a sign that says Bitcoin only on your store. So legal tender does not equal coerced tender. And I think that's an important distinction. So in the US, I could put up a store that says US dollar cash only. I could put up a sign that says, euros only in cash. I could put up a sign that says card only. These are all perfectly legal. What El Salvador has done is actually something slightly different. Article 7 is quite a rare thing that very few countries have actually adopted that says if someone offers this to you at a point of sale transaction, you must accept it, which actually isn't the case with most places around the world and isn't a part of legal tender laws as they're normally done across the world at all. So I think that that's one of the main confusions that you brought up, Jen, is that, there's this strange idea about like legal tender laws and coercion and people saying, well, people were already forced to accept the US dollars. It's like, well, actually, it's just not true. People could have put up signs and said, they accept Bitcoin prior to this. Other point of confusion.
I get to be incorrect every couple of years, so that's my one.
I think, well, we all do, David. But the other thing that is confusing about all of this is that people are saying it's kind of this Orwellian doublespeak where they're saying, one side saying, well, people must accept Bitcoin. And then the other side saying, no, they don't have to accept it. They can exchange it for anything they want. And you've got to break apart those two parts of the sentence because they're total non sequiturs. Accepting something and being able to trade it for something are two separate steps, right? Yes, they have to accept Bitcoin if they're offered at a point of sale transaction as per Article 7. Yes, they can immediately transfer it. No one's debating that they can immediately transfer it. But a lot of the Bitcoin community is using the second step to say it doesn't matter about the coercion because, they can immediately transfer it. But the point of the coercion that has a lot of people up in arms is, first of all, as Vitalik pointed out, forcing a business to accept a specific cryptocurrency is counter to the ethos of cryptocurrency, the ideal of freedom in money. But also there's the point of, all of the hassles involved, in order to exchange it. Like, first of all, you have to have an app that's set up. There's a technological barrier there. Perhaps people don't want a digital implementation of US dollars. Perhaps they don't want that. Perhaps they don't want to go into a system that's KYC'd. There are all kinds of things that go along with this. Perhaps they just want cash right at that moment. And if someone offers them Bitcoin, they're legally obliged to actually accept that Bitcoin instead of the cash. So it is coercion, no matter which way you look at it. And I don't think anyone should be cheering with this. So I'm completely on board with Vitalik. But, it's like people like Eric Voorhees have also tweeted about this and said, there are two things going on. Bitcoin is being propagated around the world and is going to be propagated by good people and bad people. And it's great that Bitcoin's being propagated, but we also have to look, we don't necessarily have to cheer the El Salvadorian government, for what they're doing. So, I think that what the crypto community is doing wrong is blindly cheering them and kind of whitewashing what they're doing. Let's actually acknowledge what they're doing, which is coercion, and it's an authoritarian regime. Let's also, be happy that Bitcoin is around the world, but, the ends doesn't justify the means to a lot of cryptocurrency enthusiasts. But David, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, so just to kind of complete these, hopefully more correct half of my thought, the leaving aside the sort of crypto values and coercion element, I do think if you look at it from a kind of adoption curve perspective, where maybe this is not something that they want people to be able to do tomorrow, but it's something they want people to be able to do a year or two from now, and they're going to approach enforcement from that perspective. It is important to remember that if you have a group of people who are using the same currency, that there is a certain network effect that you want to achieve so that it's easy for them to trade amongst themselves. So I agree that the coercive elements of this, to whatever degree that's accurate, are incorrect or shouldn't be praised. But a mechanism of some sort for getting people on board the system so that everybody is actually able to exchange with each other from a purely practical, non-ideological perspective does have to be acknowledged as something that might have some necessity rather than whether or not it's good.
Yeah, I agree with that, David. I do see the practical implementation of that being a good thing. I think like where Vitalik's coming from, obviously he's coming from the principled standpoint as coercion, ends doesn't justify the means there. And, a lot of people would say if Bitcoin can stand on its own merits, then there should be no coercion needed. If this is something that a lot of people see value in, then you'll get those network effects. You're already getting that in certain areas of the crypto community where you have good network effects. You don't need coercion. And honestly, I think that Bitcoin maxis are doing themselves a disservice by holding to this coercion side of things, saying that it's okay. Like Bitcoin could stand on its own two legs. It may take longer, but it totally could. And that would be a much better route for everyone, I think.